Just open it up to the audience before we move on. Yes, sir.
One question, J.C. Sullivan, Mayo Society of Cleveland. And it's one thing, your talk on risk management is intriguing. It's one thing to know what your risks are and insure against them, but I think the genius is identifying what the risk could be. And how do you identify the unknown risk and insure against them ahead of time?
Ed, do you want to take a shot at that, talking about identifying risk and trying to limit their exposure in your company?
Let's go on the other side of that, Tracy. You know, if you can't take the risk out, what happens? So let's answer that question. Let me share that view with you, okay? Experience helps reduce the amount of risk. Hard work, due diligence, all the things you talk about, but you will make mistakes. Entrepreneurs will make mistakes. I have made mistakes. I think everyone here, if it's ever manufactured, has made mistakes. So let's go to the more difficult side. What do you do when you make a mistake? And I like to use the word, and I was at Case Western Reserve, where I lecture each year and have for some 20 years on entrepreneurship. And 2 years ago, I always finish by asking, is there any questions? And this guy on the front row says, Mr. Crawford, what word best describes your view of entrepreneurship? One word. I said, okay, everyone in this class, write down one word. And no one will get the same word that I will tell you when I'm finished. This went on for a couple minutes, they came back and I said, risk. That's interesting. Chance. Interesting. My word is rejection. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to measure risk, you have to be prepared for the fact that you're going to make a mistake. Business is fraught with risks, and it is also fraught with people rejecting your idea. I can do this, or I can't do this. And how many times have you been told already no? A lot. And so being told no on your dream hurts. So the real entrepreneurs that I've known, and I fit in this category, it came to me naturally, but I think you can learn how to handle that rejection. Because you have to turn rejection into energy. When somebody says no, 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 you're too small, you're too short, you're too this, you're uneducated, you're Irish, you're all these things that people have been telling me for a long time, no, no, no. But every time they said that to me, it encouraged me more. I was more energetic because I could take that negative impulse. And in all of our lives, there's people who will say no to you. The question is, what do you do with rejection? You've got to let it re-energize you. You cannot let it put you on the sidelines. And I've seen some great talent, some great entrepreneurs fold with rejection. So the ones that, if you make a mistake in the risk profile, which you will, you better hold in reserve the fact that somebody's going to go back and say, you made a mistake, you cost me money, this was wrong. And the most dangerous rejection is when someone's trying to help you by advising you why you failed, like the bankers. So, to me, that's answering hopefully your question a little differently, but it's all about, if you make a mistake, handling the rejection. Or even before you get to make a mistake, or you'll make a mistake because of rejection. The rejection is all over. And you're an entrepreneur, you got your chin stuck out there, and it can be devastating. The younger it happens to you, the more dangerous it is. And it happened to me, I lost my first business after I started from scratch. I lost it because I couldn't keep buying the shares. So I built the business from 62 to 69. I was the SBA Man of the Year in the United States, runner-up to the United States from Ohio. And that business I lost. That was rejection. So that's when you think about making a mistake. I didn't make a mistake, but it sure ended up in rejection. So it wasn't my mistake. It was a mistake that I wasn't born, or my family didn't have a lot of capital to finance my business. That was okay.
I'm so happy you answered it that way, because I think that the risk the harder risks are the ones you can't insure against. And I think that, I love the way you said it, everyone makes mistakes. You're not defined by making mistakes. You cannot try things and attempt things without making mistakes. You're defined by when you make those mistakes, what do? How do you react? You know, the only failure is not getting back up after you get knocked down. That's the only failure in life. And so, before we answer the rest, I see a hand back there.
Just like to make an observation, a brief one. I've been coming to the city of Cleveland for more than 50 years, visiting my friend Jerry Quinn, of course. And I watched the city go from 1 million population all the way down to something like 400,000. Now, and I just couldn't understand that with all the amenities that this city had. Now we see renewal, and I would like to commend the business community and the political community for their efforts, their great efforts in restoring this great city to the city that I remember. There are 3 questions. We're talking about Tommy's recycling ventures. I would like to invite anybody who goes to Ireland, to Mayo, and happens to visit Ballina, to go out to the recycling center about 2 miles outside the town. It's just phenomenal, the amount of recycled material that is recycled. I simply enjoy going back. I enjoy going down there with my little tins, cans, and bottles and so on. Regarding Tom's employing up to 15 people in the near future, his 15 people are part of the 100,000 plus employed by Irish companies, companies based in Ireland, and the number of jobs that they have provided over here are 100,000 plus. I think that Peter might talk about that. The Wild Irish Way, we were recently over there. We recently came back a few weeks ago from Ireland, and the papers had many articles on the Wild Irish Way, and they had one article spoke of Kerry with its legendary Ring of Kerry, wanting to duplicate what we had in Mayo. So, just for that.
Thank you. But just to go back to that risk, Ed McNamara, you talk about, again, you heard Ed, I'll just finish up saying that, for us, we try to limit the risk you cannot buy insurance for. But what are you seeing in specifically what's happening with the insurance market of trying to control risk even to a greater deal?
Well, I think it's interesting that, everybody buys insurance of some form or another, but most risks are self-insured, as people will finally figure out over time. But it's interesting when you look at risks, they've changed over time. There's never a time where everybody thought about buying earthquake insurance or wind insurance or flood insurance. It used to be included back in the 70s, and then floods keep happening. I can remember growing up where no one actually cared or thought about health insurance. It was just kind of there, and now it's the forefront of everybody's world. Whether you've retired with a health care plan that you no longer get. I've talked to more people in the last 2 years about Medicaid and Medicare and their parents. Unfortunately, you have to understand, like in all businesses, risk change, regulatory change. More EPA regulations have come down into manufacturers and everybody else, John's world. Since I think it was 1980, they had RCRA and CERCLA that changed the world on hazardous materials and what is classified and how do you have to get rid of it, and everybody's responsible forever. I'm sure the large corporations know what I'm talking about when they have to pay for waste cleanup from 75 years ago. Well, unfortunately, there's always different ways to try to figure out how to mitigate your costs. So really what comes down to insurance is you're going to pay for it now or you're going to pay for it later. And so, I think to go more specifically to his questions, you have to be able to trust the locals. there's a lot of local knowledge that you have, and that's why it's so important when you say we're going to communicate between Northeast Ohio and Mayo, and it has to be both ways. There's a lot of things that you don't know about when you go to Ireland to start a business that are different for regulatory or insurance purposes. I'm sure if you look at Mr. Ed Crawford, who's bought a business in Ireland, or more than one, some things were different over there, but it didn't stop them, and so you look at risk and you look at ways to mitigate it. Learn from the locals. We have offices in 128 countries, 500 offices, and I can't tell you how many times I'm on the phone with someone from Turkey or Istanbul or Dublin, and trying to figure out when they say, hey, this company's going to expand in America, what do you need to know? We don't say no, we just say, okay, here's what you need to buy. So just understand that risk, you try to mitigate, but don't let it stop you. It's one of those things where learn from the people that know, and then make it better.
So, I didn't know if anybody else had a question. I had a question actually for Sean. Working for a large company, so I'm a small manufacturer. Strategy-wise, what do you guys see for the future, like on a global basis?
When we look at strategies and look for growth potential, we're pretty focused on shareholder value. We try to take a look. We don't just grow to grow. One of the first, we don't need practice making paint. There's nothing worse than increasing sales 10% and your bottom line stays the same or actually goes backwards. Getting into a market, it's just not worth it. I think that, we're very careful. I still remember 30 years ago being in the room and taking a look, and I'll tell you, we sat there we had 1,200 stores in the United States. Now we have 4,000. We have 4,000 stores, and we had to have, but we found out we could run paint stores very efficiently. At the time, I don't know, many of you that are longtime Cleveland, Ohio, when I first started with the company, not many people realize about Sherwin-Williams. We own Gray drugstores. I don't know how many have ever heard of Gray drugstores, but we're in drugstores. And so we had to sell those. Our number one customer in 1984 was Coca-Cola Company. You mentioned the Coca-Cola Company earlier. People go, how could Sherwin-Williams' number one customer be Coca-Cola? That's because we invented saccharin. Saccharin was our number one product. I don't know how many people know that. Did you know that, Ed?
No, I did not.
Yeah. So, and I got to tell you something about what Ed said. You talk about strategy, you talk about making mistakes. The chemist that invented Murphy Oil did it while he was working for us, went to us. We said, no, we're not going to do that. He quit, started the company, and God bless him, he made a lot of money. So,
And a good product.
and a good product.
Was he
So,
Murphy?
but we sat there and looked at it and said, saccharin's not our future. Great drugstores are not our future. A lot of these things are not our future. Paint stores. And we became very focused. We make money by selling paint. And, and we got everything else out of our way. And so that's given us the opportunity to have growth and shareholder growth. And what's nice is, over the last 30 years, our market cap has gone from 1 billion to 21 billion. And during that time, 20% of the stock was owned by the employees in our stock ownership plan. So that means that 4 billion of the 20 billion went to the employees, 16 billion went to the shareholders. So it's nice to see the employees be able to retire and do very well. And then what we try to do is we don't try to fight City Hall. We try to, and it's so interesting, listen to Tommy, and I got to tell you this. I recognize what he said about hotels and restaurants. You're going to a really nice restaurant and there's a garbage can next to the front door, or a garbage can. And just to tell you what we've tried to do, while we're trying to grow sales, is to try to be better citizen. And it's worked out very well. In 1988, we cemented over the sewers out of our plants. And we said we're going to go to zero discharge. And today, if you go to our plants, we don't have a garbage bin. We don't have garbage containers. 100% is reused. Not one bit down, from the lavatories as a sewer, but we don't do anything else. There's zero district. Yeah. So everything, if we have paint, excess paint, we figure out how to reuse it. Or paint that we used to take tanker cars of product that was not properly made and would ship it to a landfill. That's zero. We don't have any of those activities anymore. The cardboard comes in, we recycle the cardboard. Glass comes in, we recycle the glass. The pallets come in, we recycle the pallets 100%. So we're trying to do those things, and I only mention it because of Tommy. I think his ideas and his thoughts are great. But I think that you have to be focused and you have to find out what you're good at. And once you figure out what you're good at, keep repeating. Go from 1,000 to 4,000. I will tell you, 1991, 92, there was a lot of concern in our investor base that said, are you going to sell your paint in Home Depot and Lowe's? And we said no. And they said, if you don't, you're going to be buried. You're going to go out of business. And we're very focused on servicing the customer, giving them high-quality products, and we've continued to do that, to the point where we probably have the highest selling prices in paint because our paint's worth it. And people, if they try it, they find out that they like the paint. So that's what we decided to do a long time ago. We were not going to try to race to find that $1.99 paint that we could, make 25 cents a gallon on. We went the other way. What will people pay? Well, people will pay for quality, and people will pay for service. So when you go into one of our stores, we match the paint perfectly, but that means we got to spend a lot of money on our color matching equipment. Those are the type of things that we work on, and those are the things we're good at. A lot of times people say, well, are you going to start manufacturing spray equipment? No. Brushes, we do some brushes, but carpet, no. Wallpaper, no. There's paint, yes. Drugstores, no. Saccharin, no. So
It's good business for somebody else.
Yeah, we've learned our lesson. We used to be in the, but I guess I would just tell you, we feel we're successful because we look at organic versus acquisitions. And I'm going to ask Ed here. I would tell you, and I just heard today how many acquisitions you've completed, and maybe if you wouldn't mind sharing with us and what you think the keys are to success in that area.
In the last 21 years, we've done 86 acquisitions. And we decided to do that simply. You had an advantage. You had a business, and you made a product called paint, okay? And I always have been envious about owning a product like Coca-Cola or wheelchairs or something like that. But I looked and tried to buy a company that had a profile of one great name that I could build on. I just couldn't find one. So I decided to follow an example of some rather successful companies in Cleveland, Ohio called Eaton, for example, that was a $75 million auto supply company. People like Parker Hannifin. These are people that did not have a product line like paint and a lead in a product line like paint. So we just had to develop it around a company that's a diversified industrial company serving major corporations worldwide. 1/3 of our business now is international, going probably to 40–45%. So necessity, but clearly you admire Sherwin-Williams as someone that has really stick to their knitting, has done it very successfully, at world class. But again, if you don't have the product, you got to figure some other way to succeed. So you play a different game. So it wasn't something that I chose to do. And we didn't have the balance sheet of Sherwin-Williams, so we had to start buying companies. A big buy at that time was writing a check for $10 million. Now it's writing a check for $300 million. So we already have the capabilities to do that. Probably it's easier for us to write that check today than it was the $10 million. So, you know, it's a different format, but again, it's something that can happen in America. And there are people who will invest in good, solid ideas, and that's a good, solid idea in the eyes of many, many very sophisticated investors.
Hey, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Through my role, unfortunately, as a banker, I work with a lot of businesses who are in startup mode, and there's a fantastic range of supports in Ireland at the moment. Peter would tell you through the local enterprise office, through Enterprise Ireland, through Rusty Health, there's a whole plethora of supports there to bring people through the early stages of developing their business. If one was to do that here in the morning in Cleveland, what are the agencies or what are the supports that are there to be able to help somebody develop that role?
It's a great question, you know, and I think Ed mentioned venture capital and angel investors, and there's always those routes, but there's an organization here in Northeast Ohio that's called Jumpstart, and their main mission is to work with entrepreneurs and startup companies. So they walk them through these channels of who they need to go to raise those funds. I mean, there's obviously SBA funds for small businesses, for loans and things, but Jumpstart was born out of the need. You know, what I do is Business Attraction, we're working with established companies, and if we get a company that is startup or has this great idea, we're not the best fit for them, because our programs that we hook people up with don't always work. But Jumpstart, there's a need for that. I mean, there's a lot of incubators are on the rise here, and I don't know if how many of you have seen the news on Youngstown Incubator. They're about to add their 6th building, I think. They were named #1 incubator in the United States or something similar, and they're doing phenomenal work. I mean, if it's a specific industry, what we're seeing defined is, I mean, there's Shaker Launch House. There's all these places where great minds are getting together to start their businesses, and they're working with either companies and people that have been through this on their own and they know how to do it, and they're matching the right people with those resources.
Just a little bit more on that too, is there's a company called Magnet in Cleveland, and we actually took Tommy over there at lunch to meet with Tom Licks, who started Cleveland Whiskey out of an incubator similar. It's a private-public consortium that just actually helps you develop your product and bring it to market in Northeast Ohio, and then be able to expand it, you know, beyond here.
I guess I had a question for Peter. You know, my job is to bring companies here to Northeast Ohio, and obviously you want this to be reciprocal, that we're investing in Mayo. Do you have targeted industries that you're looking at that we can help you with, businesses that we're talking to that are looking to invest in Ireland?
Yeah, we do, and one of the things we're going to do coming out of this particular event is we're going to hook you up very closely with our Enterprise and Investment Unit. Just to get back to the incentives and the supports, in our system we have incubators, some of which are run by community groups and voluntary groups and just people looking to push their place ahead, some of which are run by ourselves, and we're actually in the process of buying quite a large unused industrial unit for conversion to that. We have 2 grades essentially of support. We have the local enterprise office that Kenny referred to, that's a government office that is rolled out in each county, and that takes startups and very small companies that want to grow, and the upper limit in terms of size is roughly about 10. Once you graduate past there, they support them with capital grants, with employment grants, with mentoring, with training, and a whole range of supports. Then beyond that, at 10, you transition into Enterprise Ireland, and they have to grow as far as you want to go. On the other hand, people here will be aware of the IDA and the policy, and they're there to support foreign direct investment, specifically into manufacturing. And that just brings me to 2 points that I wanted to make, and I'll come back to your point in a second. On the question of the employment of, or the jobs generated in this country by Irish companies, because of the inversion debate, it's been getting a little bit of attention recently. Now, if anyone is on the internet, please do not Google what I'm going to say in terms of numbers, because it's one of the scourges of the current era that you can have someone at the back say you're wrong in terms of numbers. So this is an approximation. Numbers are not my big thing. But it is a fact, at least in terms, and Sean raised the point, in terms of the IDA, that there are more Americans employed by Irish-owned companies in the US than there are Irish people employed by US based companies in Ireland. And I think the order here is about 120,000 jobs. But like I said, that's subject to a health warning. But there are more people employed in this country. So reciprocal business and reciprocal employment is really what it's about. It has to, otherwise it doesn't sustain. And second point, before we come back to where we're going in terms of sectors, the question of chance and opportunity. I don't know if anyone knows the town of Tube in Galway. It's quite a big town, a cathedral town. And why it came to be where it is based on, is really because a group of monks who were voyaging towards the coast with a view of setting up a monastery. The wheel literally fell off the wagon at a particular point. The wheel broke, horse-drawn wagon, and they took that as a sign and they set up camp and Tube evolved from there. So sometimes where the truck breaks down is a sign that that's where you should be, put down the roots.
A different mission, but clearly
The sectors that we are targeting are specifically tourism, ICT, and there are areas related to those in terms of small-scale manufacturing, which is where Tommy fits into it, and also the whole question of financial trading and financial services based on the presumption that we get this connectivity built up. We've done some work around that and we'll be happy to share it, and we will try and make the connection with our enterprise investment unit arising out of this weekend.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Michael Larkin, Mayo. This is more of an observation more than a question. And I just want to take one word and elaborate a little bit on it. And that word is pride. And of course, there's no doubt, many of you here will know that when our immigrants from Mayo, and indeed from Ireland, but from Mayo in particular, were forced to immigrate to this great city and indeed to this great country, where do you come from? It's say Ireland. Where in Ireland? The West, or maybe the West. And almost apologetically, where are you from in the West? And maybe with a head bowed, they might say, I'm from Mayo. God help us. That's a fact. We want to get away from that. Contrast that with 2014. If a young Mayo boy or girl, man or woman, is asked, where are they from? I'm from Mayo, that wonderful county on the west coast of Ireland, and they want to explain what we have. All that has been said here this morning, and what will be said tomorrow as well. That's all true. And of course, you are also proud of keeping that here, your justification. If I can just give you an example, there are many, the word cluster